This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masteringencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Got it. Hey, let's get going. Welcome everyone. Larry Bailey here with Mortgage Workflow Partners. We're here again on Thursday. And we got some more people coming in. We'll go ahead and admit those folks. It's June 8th. And you know what that means? It's 2 days left before 23.2 drops. So we got a fairly planned agenda today for a couple of things, but we are here to help others first. So Chris, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Amy, Kim, I think I have to start paying you guys to show up. Is that what's going on here? You guys are always coming, so I appreciate that.
$5.
Do we have to negotiate the salary? I mean, is this
I'll do it for 4.
Is this like an appearance thing? Awesome. Hey, Kim. Hey, so welcome. Who's got questions? Anybody have anything they want to talk about before I get into other things that I had planned? Nothing. Okay. All right. If you change your mind, go ahead and just shout it out, and we'll go through it. So plan topics for today. I want to go through pipeline views and dashboards, kind of keep riffing on the whole custom field conversation from Tuesday. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Mastering Encompass Community. And then also, most importantly, at least for me, I'm trying to disrupt the plugin scene. So for those that have known me for quite a while, I'm always workflow first before technology. That doesn't mean technology isn't really cool. I wish I had the skill sets, I truthfully do, to where I could take my imagination and put it into technology and just have it do whatever. My next best thing that I do is partner with other brilliant folks who can actually do the things that I can't. I've got a good imagination. I've got a pretty decent work drive, but actually building the technology is not my first and best skill set. So I'm going to talk about what I did about that as workflow partners and how we partnered with a great opportunity. So first things first, I'll go kind of out of order here. Thanks for those that are joining up. Thanks for coming. The community itself, if you go over to workflowpartners.org/masteringencompass, which is where you go to if you just type in masteringencompass.com, I'm kind of morphing this thing, and on here is where you can always join the live event. You can also, we live stream these things on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and some other places as well, as this continues to grow. So there's a link at least to YouTube. But the whole point of this project really is to the community. So I put a link here for the community. And if you haven't been in the mortgage community, I started this up, I think it was like January, February of 22. And the concept was really to keep it open, right, for everybody and keep the conversations going. But honestly, it never took off. People just want to talk about Encompass. So I think that's totally cool. So I've gone ahead and started the transition to having this just be all about Encompass. It doesn't mean you can't talk about other stuff, but I'm going to eventually change this branding to community.masteringencompass.com kind of a thing. It should not break your bookmarks. It should not break everything that we've done, because I'm just going to do a mass redirect. It's like a web thing. If you have any problems with that, of course, I want to hear about it, and we'll work to fix it. So in any event, one of the things that we're also going to be working on throughout this year is developing in these courses. Some of these are going to be for free. And the concept, and some of them won't be for free. But the concept is really just, you guys know, everybody knows how to work Encompass, right? This is not about training you on Encompass native stuff. This is about taking your Encompass knowledge, what you know, and amplifying it and showing you real world stuff that's happening that I think you need to know, things that I see every day with the clients that we support. And the feedback that comes from you is really important. So if you're ever in a bind, or you're doing whatever and you're thinking about, geez, I wish there was a way I could do this in Encompass, I want to hear about it, mostly because the important part is it available natively? Because Encompass is changing, honestly, at a breakneck speed at this point. ICE is doing a phenomenal job of really launching out updates, not just talking about things, but actually delivering product updates, which is super sweet. And there are a bajillion different things to keep your eyes on, not just on the Encompass platform, but of course on your business. So it's hard to be aware of everything that's changing. And if your company decides to pivot from one part of the platform to the other, such as going to task-based workflows or going to hybrid e-close or moving off of your existing POS onto Consumer Connect or any one of those things. My intent is to expand this out, to bring these courses in. You take them as you want, you take them if you want. But if if there's something that's on here that you're like, I wish I knew how to do this better, that's what these weekly things are about. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And so we just talk about what's going on. So I'm just going to pause. A couple of the people have joined. So thanks very much for coming. Again, this time is for you. It's meant to be like a 30-minute quick hit. Does anybody who's joined have any questions, anything they want to ask or talk about? Kind of an open time. You should be able to self-mute, unmute. Can you unmute? If you can't unmute for whatever reason, hit me up on the chat. For those that are watching live stream, if you'd like to be part of this, just go to masterengencompass.com, and I think you have to have a Zoom account. You log in, there's no registration needed. Just join whenever you want. So I don't see any chats coming through. I don't see anybody taking themselves off mute.
I do have a question, and I may have to reach out to ICE on this because I think I'm either overthinking it or I'm not.
It's usually my problem. I'm usually overthinking.
I overthink it. So I've been here at Cadence for a little under 3 months. So I'm not Consumer Connect savvy.
Mm-hmm.
So we just switched we also just went under completed merger branding. So we went from bxs.com to cadencebank.com.
Okay.
So with that, we changed all of our websites, LO websites, should have updated Consumer Connect, which we did, but all of this was done without admin,
okay,
notifying admin. So I'm finding this out after the fact. So my concern is with the new default release updates that are coming out on Sunday, I don't know how that's going to impact. Number one, I don't know how that's going to impact my new apps coming in, but I also don't know how that Consumer Connect ID impacts the borrower's signing disclosure. So if it came in as a default ID 1234,
right,
and now we have a new Consumer Connect ID because of the new website, and it's 45678.
yeah,
and then we have a business rule that also populates the Consumer Connect ID under 8, 9, 10, 11, under a completely different Consumer Connect ID. What's going to break on Monday?
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure you understand what your Consumer Connect site ID field ID is, right? So in your pipeline view, so you got that, right? So if you don't, if anybody doesn't know this, it's spaced out on here. I don't think I have it in my RDB. No, I don't. So if you add it to your RDB reporting database for a Consumer Connect site ID, and that'll give you the number. And so what's really nice about about the relationship between Consumer Connect and the site and Encompass is that site ID is permanently linked to the borrower in that file through the loan GUID or GUID, depending on how you pronounce it, the GUID. And so what's happening on this weekend with 23.2, there's nothing that's going to change the actual Consumer Connect site ID in the loan file. The one thing that is happening this weekend, which I think is a great move, is that it's not the files sometimes are created, a lot of times this happens with copies, but files are created in Encompass and the Consumer Connect site ID copies from the old file into the new file, which is a major pain in the ass. And so you've got to basically blank that out until the loan officer signed. And according to the release notes, that little workflow doesn't have to happen anymore. Even when a loan is created manually, it's not going to automatically assign the Consumer Connect site ID until the loan officer is assigned. And that's why it's really important to make sure that in your organizational hierarchy, sorry, that's an old term, but organization slash folders, organization slash users, that in here, that the Consumer Connect site ID down here is complete, because that's how Encompass is going to know which site is tied to which loan officer in the loan file. So to your question, Christy, I don't expect anything's going to break, but you do want to make sure that you go through all of your users to make sure that their correct site ID is applied properly to their user account. I would make sure that was done before anything else.
That makes sense. Yeah, I looked through this morning and something just doesn't sit right. I feel like something is going to happen, not necessarily because of the release.
Yeah.
I think we've got the release. I'm going to update the business rule we do have that is updating or adding the site ID.
Yeah.
But the fact that we now have our old site and our new site still active, I think that's what's concerning me, because it's still there.
Your borrowers are going to be fine. Your borrower is, if your borrower's in the file, their experience is not going to change as long as the website is still published. So keep everything published. If you go into the loan files, you'll see for today versus Monday, their Consumer Connect site ID in the loan file is not going to change. The one thing that you've got to make sure of, from my perspective, from what I'm hearing you say, I'm going to answer this in two ways. First is to make sure that all of your organizational folders have the correct Consumer Connect site ID filled in here, okay, the URL. And so you do a lookup and it'll fill in if you've got one active. If you've got something in there you can't free type, you got to basically get rid of this, and then you've got to do a recert, re-click it, and it'll give you your eligible sites to choose from. That's step one. And then once you do that, then you got to make sure you go into each one of your accounts in here and make sure that it's filled in. If this is checked, this should automatically fill in based upon the folder information. You're not seeing the screen. Sorry, guys. Thanks for the heads up. So on the screen, because I was probably pointing at you and you're like, what the heck is he pointing at? So what I was trying to show you was in the organization slash users, edit the organization and make sure that this part right here, this Consumer Connect site, is filled in. If it's not behaving properly, clear it out and reselect it. But what you want to make sure once you do that is that you come over and down here at the bottom, this should be filled in. If you've got unique loan officer sites, which I'm going to talk to in a second, then make sure again that each loan officer site is selected properly here. Making sense so far?
Yes.
So now I'm going to hit you with something different that you didn't ask me about, which is, when are you going to move to widgets?
That's a good question. I have asked that and I have not received a response yet. But right now we're not using the widgets.
I thoroughly encourage everyone, please move to widgets, move to widgets, move to widgets. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm going to bring over a client's site here, westfieldbank.com. We, Mortgage Workflow Partners, we moved them from from using loan officer pages to using widgets, as well as helping them get consumer loans into Encompass. So basically their entire organization, their branch managers, everybody now has direct access into using their Consumer Connect site for everything. So when the borrower or the branch member goes and applies, they come into a Consumer Connect experience, but it's all within the bank's website. So from a security perspective and a branding perspective, it's all in there. And from an Encompass administrator support perspective, this is all JavaScript code that your web developer can basically just take and change some characters in there for the loan applicant recipient, as well as a workflow ID. And you only have to worry about your workflow IDs. You don't have to maintain all these different websites or all these different loan officer pages. That's really where you want to get to. It's really, really where you want to get to. So, yeah, if you're out there and you're using Consumer Connect and you're a little bit disenchanted with the experience because of the support for the site or the support for the loan officer pages or the branch pages, you can get rid of all that by just moving to a widget. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, hit me up afterwards or whenever. Larry at workflowpartners.org or 888-522-7181, and I'll help you out. Easy cheesy peasy. Does that help, Christy?
It does, makes me feel a little better, but I just hopped into our settings and I think I've got a lot of work because
All right. Well, hey, listen,
we have a lot of users.
It's job security, right? That's why we're here. So
I love the job security.
I love job security. Love it, love it, love it. Great question, Christy. Thanks for asking. Some other people joined. So first of all, thank you for coming to the show. Again, every Tuesday at 4 and Thursday at 1, only for 30 minutes. So we got about 15 minutes left. Anyone else have any more questions? Things I want to talk about? Anxiety about this weekend's updates? Hopefully you've had a chance to see the video walkthroughs I've done. If you haven't, they're posted into the community or on our YouTube channel. No? Okay. So any questions, just shout it out or put it in the chat. Kim, thanks for giving me a heads up that I was not sharing my screen. I'll get technology to work correctly sooner or later. So, hey, let's talk about pipeline views dashboards, because I find that a lot of companies that we walk in to help, not only are the pipeline views being underutilized and underleveraged, but dashboards are like a thing that seems like some far off land. And truthfully, the behavior that you're watching for is if you or anyone in a team that you're supporting is constantly flipping back and forth between multiple pipeline views just to get through their day, I want you to immediately think dashboard. So if you're not familiar with dashboards, seriously, they are nothing more than multiple pipeline views all put in one spot. You could do 9 if you have like a really big screen or if you have really small snapshots. But primarily it's either it's either this kind of order with a 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're slightly offset from left to right in terms of vertical margins, or a lot of times it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you ever come into Encompass dashboard and you get a little pop-up that says there's no default, all that's happening is you need to go and select the lookup tool and select one of these guys. And I'm sorry, I totally screwed that up. Come into the graph paper with the pencil, select one of these guys, and then click set as default. That's all it needs. And that way, when you first come into dashboard, Encompass knows what to display for you. So the thing that that a lot of folks, again, comes out of the box, it's company view, and it gives you this little view. And what it's really trying to do is give you an experience between bar charts, trend lines. That's what these two things are. And user tables. These are user tables. These are all different snapshots, and you can always come in here and modify these snapshots on the fly, or you can build your snapshots up here in the upper right. But these are all functioning off the same thing. So when you go back to your pipeline view, again, we're all used to pipeline views. We do it all the time. And if you're ever the kind of user, or you have a bunch of users that have these pipeline views that are wider than the screen, I always challenge, what are you doing off screen? Like, how are you seeing that? Are you sliding left and right just to kind of peek at something? It might be time to consolidate and relook at that. Right mouse click, customize columns. We should all be used to this. As a reminder, these are the field-friendly names that are coming from the reporting database. So if you're finding that you've got like lone team member space processor, you can change that in the reporting database to just lone processor or lone officer, as it's shown here. Then that'll carry through. Something else that happens a lot that I hear of is people don't understand what field ID these column headers are. So the trick is, if you just put a character in there, it'll come up here in the filter. And then you can go to advanced search and you can double click this and see what the field ID is. Some of these field IDs are unusable anywhere other than the pipeline. This happens to be one of them. But maybe something that is not so obvious is, lock and request status over in here. So again, if you come over and you want to look at lock and request status, again, this is the field ID. So these are ways that I kind of cheat through building out fairly useful pipeline views. But what I want you to also appreciate is a lot of times you can concatenate some of the information that's off screen into something that's more meaningful in a dropdown. So as an example, recently there was a situation where I had to figure out like a marketing director answer. And the drop-down field that the client was using in the loan file started with the state. And the reason why they did that was because, in one state it was Larry, and then in another state it was Larry, and then in a third state it was John. But you couldn't sort by the, you couldn't sort in here because it was the state space the person's name. So what we did was we just created a custom field that basically looked for that drop-down field. If it contained a specific, if it contained Larry, then that field displayed Larry. And now what you can do with that, of course, is you can put it on the pipeline view, but most importantly, you can go to dashboard. And so one of the things that we did, and I can't show it on here because it's just private client information, but we basically built a bar chart. And we were able to segregate out the different regions that the different managers were in. So it might say Larry, and then it gave the unit count. It might say John, and it gave the unit count. And what's really important is this dropdown. And this is one of the things that, again, a lot of folks don't understand, don't understand about dashboards. Sorry, Luba, if you were waiting long, I didn't notice over there because I was paying attention to over here. So sorry about that.
No biggie.
So this drop down represents the date of the summary of the snapshot in English. What we're talking about here is when you go into edit the snapshot, this 365 represents right here. So if you're ever in a situation where you've got files that you're trying to run through a pipeline view or dashboard, and they're over a year from file start date, you're never going to get them on a dashboard. So what you have to think about is, how am I segregating out these loans in the dashboard so that I can see them? Maybe it's application date, right? So if you want to do that, you can just punch in 3142. And now when I hit save, now this last 365 is of the application date. So if I wanted to see the previous week, I can see previous week application date into my snapshot. So that's really important when you look at this 365, again, over here in this snapshot. This is talking about 365 from started date. But whatever is in your reporting database, you can pick from. Maybe it's your closing date, or maybe it's something else. So I wanted to kind of speak to the concepts of, again, mastering pipeline views isn't just about using the data that you have. It's about understanding how your teams are leveraging them. And then most importantly, I hope that you're getting up, whether it's physical or virtual, and you're meeting with your teams, everyone, sales, straight through post-closing and accounting even, making sure that you're watching them on how they're leveraging their Encompass platform to see how they're using pipeline views. And then saying, listen, what if I gave you concise information that's maybe even slightly different from your pipeline view, but concise information into your dashboard so you can see more than one pipeline view at a time. Lube, you got a question?
Yeah. So you know how it's got last 365 and next 365?
Yeah.
But is there a way to do, I don't know, like current 365, or do you just do like year to date, I guess? Because
So,
like what we struggle with, we'll set it to like application date or a date that the dashboard is based on, but then it won't show that loan until next day.
yeah, so what I did was I created a custom field that took today -1.
Mm,
And I used that as my basis for show me. So basically, if anybody goes in that file, it records yesterday.
mhm.
So if I include yesterday for whatever, if you've never used dashboards, what Lube is talking about is if you do last or next, it's like it's the outside of today. Today doesn't count. And so this is the problem that Lube is talking about. And yeah, Lube, I've gotten through this problem by using a CX dot, I think I call that like CX dot dashboard date or something. And I use basically just a field calc of today -1. And because it affects the loans that you're opening, it's every loan that's in production. And then I use last 365. And I use that in combination with a filter of the loans that I wanted in that date spread so that I can always find the loans that I'm looking for, even if they happen today.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to say too. That's what I do is I try to avoid setting that last 365 as the only filter for that particular workflow. So I build it out in those filters.
you can, you can. The challenge is you're always left with this though. Like you can never get away from this. So then the question is, Christy, for you,
Right.
stepping forward, what do you put in here? Do you put file started date or what do you put in here?
I typically use that file started date because where I was at before, now here we don't use dashboards, but where I came from, that we didn't allow files to be a year old and be active.
Congratulations. That's a great
So-
policy. honestly.
So they were cleared out within 120 days. If
Yeah.
there was no RESPA app, it was canceled, moved out, and they had to start over.
I think a lot of administrators are like, boy, I wish I could do that too, but it just
It was amazing.
I bet. Yeah, and so again, the idea is, and Christy, thanks for acknowledging. It's not a one size fits all, and it's not always an easy straight answer. But Luba, what happened for me was because of that, it was actually Westfield Bank, and they don't mind me sharing their name because we've talked about this publicly before. But the idea is they do consumer loans, and so their consumer loans are like 3-day close, some days, sometimes even 1-day close. And so they use dashboards. I help them use dashboards, and they have to watch these loans go through same day of file creation. And so that's why I had to solve for that.
Yeah, like I don't know if we run into this as much in live scenarios as we do in testing, and I just found it annoying.
Yep. Yeah, try that out. So listen, before we run out of time, I'm going to cover one more thing, which is in here. So you guys are the first to hear it direct, and then everybody else is watching this live. So I partnered with a well-known organization that has a ton of plugins, but nobody really knows what they are because they kind of do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. They've actually built a lot of technology for companies that you're probably familiar with. In any event, basically it's a smorgasbord of whatever plugin you want. $399 a month is the flat fee, $5 per closed loan. You're not exceeding $2,000 a month. Basically, you want to advocate for the accessibility of plugins for any sized organization. So yes, if you close 10 loans a month, it's $400 plus $50, and you can have whatever plugin that you want. If there's a plugin that you need that's not on this list, reach out to me, let me know. If you're interested in any of this, click here to send me a contact form. It is time for the existing players that offer plugins, whether it's in a very expensive monthly solution or in these little compartmentalized solutions. I want to do something about it. I want to do something about it for our clients at Mortgage Workflow Partners, and I want to do something about it for you, even if you're not a Mortgage Workflow Partners existing client. If you're in an engagement, there is a discount to this number even more. But that was the big news for the plugin for disrupting. We're going to be promoting this heavily, obviously, because I think there's a huge opportunity to save companies a lot of money, number one, and then give access to plugins that you couldn't typically afford before. Some of these plugins are API based, many are SDK based, but they're all able to be installed if you like. So if you have any questions about this after today, please let me know. But that is, you'll find that on our page under services, under Encompass Solutions. Just as a footnote, again, Mortgage Workflow Partners does not build technology. We simply partner with folks who know how to build this stuff, and we bring it to market in a responsible way, making sure that you're using what you should be using at a price that is fair and is sustainable. And Jolene is joining at the end. Sorry, Jolene. Anybody have any questions about anything that we've talked about today? Jolene, I'm so sorry you're just joining. We're just ending.
Are there descriptions for what the plugins do somewhere?
Yeah, they'll be over in on this side. I have not updated everything because there's some that just don't have some descriptions. But everything over in here you'll find. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, Liva, just reach out.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, every plugin, no matter who the provider is that you could name, they're all very similar. There's a couple standouts, right? Nobody's going to recreate Biz Rule Analyzer from Lender Toolkit. That's Nikolai. Like, the dude's a genius, created a great product. Lender Toolkit owns it, whatever. That no one's going to recreate. But the plugins that run, it's just, there's no reason why some of these things need to be so expensive. Honestly, there's just no reason. So there you go. Looking for last questions. Again, I like to keep these things hot and quick, 30 minutes, just about. Looks like we're out of time. Christy, thanks for the questions today. Luba, thank you for your question. Awesome stuff. And good luck this weekend, everybody. I'll be online if you get stuck. And thanks as always. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
See you now.
All right, bye.